Hello, fourth grade, and welcome to lesson 15-4. In this lesson, we're going to focus on how to measure and draw angles. So in this lesson, you're going to be doing some measuring and some drawing on your own. You're going to use your protractors for that. That's the tool that we talked about. Let's go ahead and get started.
How do you use a protractor? Let's find out. Angles are usually measured in units called degrees. The degree symbol indicates degrees. A protractor is a tool that is used to measure and draw angles. A partially folded crane is shown. How do you measure angle PQR? Let's find out. What are the rays that form angle PQR?
Select your answer.
Okay, now here remember, a ray has one endpoint and the other side goes on and on forever. Now in an angle, we have two rays that share the same endpoint. So over here we have ray QP, and here we have also ray QR.
The rays that form angle PQR are ray QP and ray QR. The vertex of an angle is the common endpoint of the rays that form the angle. What is the vertex of angle PQR? The vertex of angle PQR is Q. When you name an angle with 3 letters, the letter in the middle is always the name of the vertex. Another name for angle PQR is angle RQP. Where should you place the protractor's center to measure angle PQR? To measure angle PQR, place the protractor's center on the angle's vertex, Q. Place one side of the bottom edge on one side of the angle. What do you notice about the protractor where the other side of the angle crosses? There are 2 angle measures where the other side of the angle crosses the protractor. There is a larger and a smaller number. If the angle is acute, use the lesser number. If the angle is obtuse, use the greater number. What type of angle is angle PQR? Angle PQR is an acute angle. What is the measure of angle PQR?
Select your answer.
The measure of angle PQR is 45 degrees. There are 2 scales on the protractor. What is another reason you read the measure of angle PQR as 45 degrees instead of 135 degrees? Another reason you read the measure of angle PQR as 45 degrees instead of 135 degrees is that you use the scale that begins with the 0 degrees mark from the side you place the bottom edge of the protractor. To draw an angle that measures 130 degrees, begin by drawing a ray. Label the end point T. Place the protractor so that the middle of the bottom edge is over the end point of the ray. Place a point at 130 degrees. Then draw a ray TW. Where will you place the next point? Place the next point at the 0 degree mark. Label it U and draw a ray TU. The measure of angle WTU is 130 degrees.
Now you know how to measure and draw angles.
All right, let's go ahead and get into our notes and our guided practice. Now, we're on lesson 15-4. How do you use a protractor? So here, remember, a protractor is a tool that's used to measure and draw angles. And here I have a cutout of a protractor for you. Now, there's a couple things I'm going to talk to you about this protractor. Some of them we heard in the video, some of them not. When you want to measure an angle using a protractor, you line up the vertex. So the place where both of those rays meet, you line it up within the circular part of a protractor. So if this is a protractor, you line it up where that circle is. There's a hole right there for you to see it. You can see the line cuts over here to show you how to line it up. So over here, we have angle ABC. The point that is shared by both of those rays, or the vertex of this angle, is point B. So point B is going to be lined up in that little circular opening. Then you're going to line up one of the rays with the edge. So there's either a line, little lines like this one, you can see the little lines on the edge to help you line it up, or it'll just be kind of a clear section or a straight line that you'll line up your angle with. And you point it towards the 0. Now, if your ray is starting on this side, then you'll point towards this 0, and we'll get to that in a minute. So you use the measurement on the protractor to figure out the measure of your angle by looking at what number the second ray in your angle is pointing at. So over here, BC, we have pointing at 0. So ray AB over here is pointing at 60. So it's telling me that this measure right here is 60 degrees. Now I know this is an acute angle. It's less than 90 degrees. So its measure is going to be less than 90 degrees. Here we can see that it measures at 60 degrees. So ray AB is pointing at 60. So angle ABC is 60 degrees. Now I have a couple pieces of important information. Notice how there are measurements that go from 0 to 180 on the inside, right? And then from 0 to 180 in the opposite direction on the outside. The ray that points at 0, so if it's pointing at the 0 on this side, or if your other ray is on this side, whichever ray is pointing at 0, that's the measurement that you're going to use. So if the ray is pointing to 0 on the inside measure, you're going to use the inside measurements. If the ray was pointing to 0 on this side, then you would use the outside measurements. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of our notes here. Okay, so we want to find the measurement of these angles below. So I'm going to take my protractor. Let me zoom in a bit for you guys so you can see better. I'm going to take my protractor and I'm going to line up the vertex with the hole right there. And I see the line over here on my protractor. I'm going to line it up as best as I can. And I'm going to, some of them have this nice little tool, this little swivel tool. If it does not have one of these, I can show you how to find your angle measure without it, which is not a problem. So you're going to line it up. You make sure it fits, it lines up with the line down here. Make sure you have the vertex over there. And then you see where it's pointing. So here I can see that angle XYZ is 50 degrees. Now, why is it 50 and not 130? Well, I'm using the inside measurements here because my ray that I lined up with 0 is lined up with the 0 that's on the inside measurements. So I'm going to use the inside measurements. Now, if I didn't have this, I would still be doing the same thing. I would look to see where it's lining up. Now, sometimes it'll be like this where it's a little bit short. So what you can do in case that happens, in case it's not reaching all the way out to your measurements, is you can take your pencil and you can just trace that line a bit further, just like that, so that you are able to line it up with your protractor. So here I'm lining up my angle again, and here I can see that it hits at just about 50 degrees. So the measurement of angle XYZ is 50 degrees. Now for my next angle, I have angle QRS. Now for angle QRS, I see that the vertex, or that shared endpoint, is point R, and I see that it's pointing to the right. So I'm going to take my protractor, same thing. I'm going to line it up. I'm going to line it up with this line right here. I'm going to make sure I get my vertex in that hole or opening for the vertex right there. And I can see right away before I measure that this is an obtuse angle. It's open bigger than a 90-degree angle. So I know it's going to measure more than 90 degrees. I'm going to line it up again. Then I'm going to take my little swivel. And I see that this is pointing at 120. So that's telling me here, since I'm using the inside measurements, remember, because my ray over here pointing to 0 is pointing to the inside measurement. I'm going to use the inside measurement and trace it all the way around. Now, same thing, if you didn't have this tool, you still can figure out where it's pointing. If you're not sure, again, take your pencil, grab your ruler or the edge of your protractor. You can trace this out further. Just line it up. Trace it out further so that when you do use your protractor, if it wasn't reaching before, it should reach now. So you're going to line it up and you can see that this measures 120 degrees. So angle QRS measures 120 degrees. Now for this angle is pointing in the other direction, which is fine. That just means we're going to use the other side of the measurements. So over here I have angle TUV. Now I'm going to take my protractor, same thing, find my vertex, line it up right in there. Okay. I'm going to take the edge of my protractor, line that up as well, just like that. And here I can see that my angle measure is about 40 degrees. Okay, now why am I saying that it's about 40 degrees? I'm saying it's about 40 degrees because this ray right here, to get it to point to the 0, it has to point to the outside 0. So I have to use the outside measurements. Now, if I use the outside measurements, this measures 40 degrees. And if I look at this angle, I can see this is an acute angle. It's open less than 90 degrees. 90 degrees would be a square corner. So that means this one is going to be an acute angle. It's going to measure less than 90 degrees. Let's measure it one more time to be sure. Oh, no, it's not 40 degrees. This one is about 45 degrees. So over here, when it falls in between two measurements, you can see how they have these individual little tick marks that you can count them. This measures, angle TUV measures about 45 degrees. So I have it lined up over here with the little line. I have the vertex in place. I figure out which side is pointing at 0, and that's the side that I use the measurements for. So either the inside or the outside. Next, let's take a look at your guided practice. Now for your guided practice number 1, it says, what is the angle measure of a straight line or a straight angle? Now this one, because we have the two rays that share the same endpoint, it doesn't matter which side I start on. I'm going to line it up. So my vertex goes in the hole. The lines on the protractor line up with there. So if I want to use the 0 on this side, or if I want to use the 0 on this side, it doesn't matter in this case. So if I want to use the 0 on this side, just so it's a little bit more clear for you guys to see. And to follow this all the way around, line it up, I can see that this measures 180 degrees. Number 2, the vertex. What are the vertex and rays of angle ABC? Explain. So angle ABC over here, here's the symbol for angle. The vertex is the point that they share, and that's always the point that they list in the middle when we're talking about angles. So that point where both of those rays meet is B, so that's point B. The two rays are what come out of it. So you have ray AB, then you have ray BC, or you can say BA and BC. For numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6, what we're doing is we're measuring angles. So again, you can take a protractor, line up the vertex, line it up with the line on the paper, and then use your little swivel if you have one. Oops. We can see this is, since we're pointing at the inside 0 over here, we can see this is right in between the 30 and the 40. So right in between 30 and 40 is 35 degrees. That's an acute angle. For number 4, same thing. We're going to line up that angle. We're going to measure. Now, since we're pointing the inside 0, we need to use the inside measurements. We already know that this is an obtuse angle. We measure that all the way around, and we see that measures 160 degrees. So since we're using the inside measurements, we have to go all the way around with the inside numbers. For number 5, we're going to line it up again, just like that. So get the vertex in place, line up your line with the line that's on the protractor. So you see that one right there. You want it to fit completely over your line. Okay. Now we know, again, we're using the inside measurements. So we're going to trace all the way around the inside. My inside measurement here points at 110 degrees. So I know that this angle measures 110 degrees. Our last one over here, we're going to line up our vertex, line up our line. Again, we're pointing to the inside measurement. So I'm going to swivel this around and I can see that my angle here, oops. My angle here measures about 50 degrees. So that's all you do with your protractor. Remember, if your protractor doesn't have one of these little swivel things and your arrow is not pointing all the way to the line on the protractor, just line it up, trace the line and make it longer so that it does line up for you. That's it for today's lesson. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.